My name is Kalith Vey, third daughter of the Drenar hierarchy, and before the Veyruun outpost, I had never returned from an engagement without being able to account for every warrior under my banner. That is the first thing you must understand about my people. War, to us, is not chaos, it is architecture. Every Drenar is raised from the hatching creche to read a battlefield the way a scholar reads a treaty. Advance, flank, hold, yield. Each clause following the last in an order our enemies could predict, because we wanted them to predict it. A battle without structure was not a battle to us. It was slaughter, and slaughter was beneath the hierarchy's honor. When our scouts first reported on the human border colonies, they came back with words like disorganized and feral. The humans did not hold formation. They scattered when discipline said to stand, and stood when discipline said to run. Our war college instructors called them a young species, still fighting like animals, not yet grown into the architecture of real war. I believed them. I had no reason not to. So when the hierarchy's astrographers flagged Veyruun, a relay node humanity had claimed with a research outpost of 11 souls and nothing resembling a garrison, I requested the honor of claiming it myself. A princess who takes a system in person makes a stronger claim than a captain who merely reports it taken. I brought 20 of my finest, armored in void plate. It seemed, if anything, an excess of caution. The breach was clean. I expected alarms, panic, soldiers rallying behind whatever barricades 11 scientists could improvise. Instead, we found corridors dimmed to standby power, blast doors sealed but unmanned, and a silence so complete that Tarek, my second, signaled me on our private channel. They have fled. I did not believe that. Humans do not abandon ground. Even their reports to high command are full of words like homestead and claim, words that suggested territory mattered to them the way breath mattered to us. So I split my warriors into hunting parties. Yes, I used that word, though I meant it only as an old figure of speech, the kind one keeps using long after it has stopped, quite fitting the war it describes, and we moved deeper into the station. We found one human almost immediately. He fired twice from a maintenance shaft, wounded 2 of my warriors, and was gone before we could close the distance. My soldiers laughed about it over comms. A single gunman who fires and retreats is already beaten on any battlefield we had ever read, simply too proud to know it yet. He was not retreating. I understand that now. He was choosing his ground, and choosing when we would find him next. Within the hour I lost contact with Varen's party. 3 warriors, gone silent. I told myself the relay was failing. Veyruun's substructure was old, riddled with dead zones, and sent another party to sweep toward their last known position. They found 2 of the 3, not dead in any way we had a protocol for, not torn by plasma fire, not burned by blade arc, wounds we could log and avenge in good order. They had been disarmed, restrained, and hung by their own gear harnesses from a conduit strut, alive, breathing, untouched apart from that. The 3rd warrior was simply gone, and gone is a worse word than dead. The dead, at least, you can mourn honestly. Sora voxed me. I had fought 4 campaigns at her side, and never once heard her composure fray the way it did in that transmission. Highness, I do not think this is a battle. I told her silence was working on her nerves. I knew, even as I said it, that I did not believe my own words. My nerves were already working on me, and I am not a soldier who frightens easily at silence. By the time I called the retreat, and I want that remembered, for whatever pride is left to salvage from Veyruun, that I called it before a single warrior under my banner had died outright, I could no longer account for nearly 1/3 of my company. We would regroup at the breach point, I told the rest. Recover what we could. Return for the others in force. That was when I understood we were not retreating from a battle. We were being driven. Every corridor we tried, toward the breach, turned out sealed, or collapsed, or simply wrong. Angled us a few degrees from where we needed to be, again and again, until the pattern stopped looking like damaged architecture and started looking like a current. We were caught in it, the way a herd beast on Dren Prime is turned by handlers it never sees, never struck, never even directly threatened, only ever offered one bad path after another, until it walks itself into the pen believing the choice was its own. Tarek went ahead to test one such path, a side corridor he judged might still lead clear. He did not come back, and I went after him myself rather than lose my second to silence the way I had already lost 6 warriors to it. I found him sitting against a bulkhead in a side chamber I would later understand had been chosen with care. A single entrance, clean sight lines, no draft to carry sound. His weapon lay beside him, powered down, magazine removed and set neatly atop it. He was breathing. Apart from a stunner burn at his collar plate, he was entirely unharmed. Scratched into the floor plate beside him, in careful Drenar trade script someone had clearly taken the time to learn, were 4 words. One left. Come alone. I should have gathered what remained of my warriors and withdrawn to the ship. Every doctrine I had ever been raised on said so, but 4 words, written by a human hand, in my own language, addressed to me specifically, are not a message a princess of the hierarchy walks away from, not if she still intends to be called one, and not merely its passenger. So I went alone, my sidearm the only weapon I carried, and told myself this was honor, and not simply that I no longer trusted any path through that station I had not chosen myself. He let me find him in the relay chamber at the station's heart, or, more honestly, allowed himself to be found there. In the one room large enough that I could see at a glance he carried no second weapon, kept no allies in the shadows. A coil of rope sat at his feet. His sidearm rode holstered, undrawn. His expression held nothing I had a framework for, not the snarl of a beast, not the cold recitation of a soldier following doctrine. He looked, more than anything, patient, like a being who had been waiting for me specifically, and was content that the waiting was finally over. "Sergeant Holt," he said, inclining his head in something that was almost, but not quite, a salute. "11th Colonial Scout Regiment. You'll want that for your report, Highness. Assuming you're filing one." I asked him what had become of the rest of my warriors. "All accounted for," he said. "Stunned, restrained, breathing. You'll find every one of them on your way back to the breach, instead of away from it, which is the one direction your people didn't think to search. Nobody on either side is dead today, Highness. That was the point, same as letting you find that note instead of finding you myself." I did not yet understand why a man capable of dismantling 20 of my finest without losing one of his own would choose to spare every life he held in his hand. "You're wondering why," he said, before I had decided whether to ask. "Wasn't the job. The job was making sure the next hierarchy commander who looks at an 11-person research outpost and calls it an easy claim does the math first." He paused. "You came in expecting a battle, formations, honor code, something you could read like a report afterward. That's not how this works where I'm from. We don't fight you like soldiers when soldiers aren't what the moment calls for. We hunt. Patient. Quiet. We choose the ground and let you walk into it, and mostly the only thing that gets hurt is whatever you thought you understood about us going in." I have replayed that sentence more times than I can account for since. He let me leave, not as a mercy I had earned, but as the point itself. The threat on Veyron was never that 20 Drenner might die. The threat was that 11 unremarkable souls, none of them elite, none of them special cadre, could take a princess's honor guard apart without losing a single life on either side, and then choose, deliberately, to let the lesson walk home rather than bury it. My instructors called humans a young species, still fighting like animals, not yet grown into the architecture of real war. I understand now, they were exactly half right. Humans are still animals, underneath the homesteads and the claims and the careful trade script scratched into a floor plate for an enemy to find. They have simply never let that stop being useful. In the hierarchy's official record, Veyron is no longer listed as a battle. I would not permit it. At my own insistence, the Honor Archive lists it under a different word entirely. I was the first of my people to use that word. I do not expect to be the last. We were hunted.